What is a genogram and how is it helpful as a leadership development tool? If you think of a family tree, that gives you a start on what a genogram is. Basically, you map on a large piece of paper, often several feet across, like the one you see behind me. You map yourself and your kids and your parents, your siblings, as well as their spouses and their kids, and then your parents, siblings, uncles, aunts, grandparents. You basically map your family tree back to your great-grandparents' generation if you're able. The significant difference between a genogram and a family tree is a family tree is often interested in something historical, like oftentimes people are very proud of a World War II veteran, or maybe they have a Civil War general in their lineage. Ancestry.com is very fascinated in where we came from, what percentage of us is Native American or German or Irish or something like that. A genogram's primary interest is two things. What is the nature of the relationship between people in your family? That's the first. And secondly, and I think most powerfully, a genogram is interested in what are some of the generational traits that have been passed down to you from your family, both traits of resiliency and strength, and also traits of pain and things that have a negative impact. A genogram is interested in helping you figure out what are you holding on to and what is holding on to you. And by mapping out your family tree and then applying some genogram tools and codes to it, you can get a lot of information just on one piece of paper on how people relate and also some of the traits that have been handed down to you from your parents, your grandparents, and things like that. Whenever you do a genogram, it can take a few hours to put together. Some people use paper like I've used behind me. You can also use an app online if you prefer to work digitally. But once you've made a genogram, a big piece of the genogram experience is presenting it to people you trust. You could present it to just one other person. You could present it to a group of people. But a genogram is ultimately an interactive process where the people you're presenting to will be asking you questions, will be offering a way for you to reflect on some things. Quite often, the gift of a genogram is the people in your group notice patterns in your family that you yourself may not even be aware of. Other times I've had experience when somebody will come in, it was the act of doing a genogram that really gave them insight into some things that they hadn't thought of before. Now, this video is for anybody. I am a person who practices my faith, and I really like the Hebrew scriptures. And there's a prophet in the Hebrew scriptures named Jeremiah, and he wrote a book, and in the 31st chapter of his book, he wrote, "In those days, people will no longer say, 'The parents have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge.' Instead, everyone will die for their own sin. Whoever eats sour grapes, their own teeth will be set on edge." And you might hear that and you might say to yourself, that sounds terrible. Like, why is that meant to be good news? Like in the coming days that this is somehow a good thing. But it really was, because before Jeremiah, Moses had made a statement that the sins of the father are passed to the third and the fourth generation. And that's really the heart of what's behind the genogram. We all inherit traits from our family. We all have a family propaganda that we believe about the world that may not be so. We all carry assumptions and wounds, and also we all carry strengths and resiliences and positive traits from our family. And a genogram has the ability to help us break free from the things that we're holding that we need to let go of, and the things that are holding us that have us in a grip. A genogram can really raise your awareness of what those things are, and now that you're aware of them, you can now really do some work on them. And the reason the Jeremiah prophecy is such good news is it's no longer true, Jeremiah says, that just because a father eats bad grapes, the son has to pay. The power of presenting a genogram is to cut off some generational traits that you would just as soon not be dominated by. Now, oftentimes people present a genogram in the workplace. It's a very personal experience. It's a very vulnerable experience. So it is important that you present to people you trust. And you might be wondering, well, how in the world is this like a leadership tool? That's because when we leave our families and when we leave our house in the morning, we are not leaving our families behind. We are bringing them into our work environments, all of our triggers, all of our assumptions, all of the things that we think are true because that's the way our family raised us, all of the challenges we faced in our family. We carry them into our workplace. And so by doing a genogram, you can really break free where they have less control over you, and you can be a more non-anxious presence. I have on my website an opportunity to get a genogram key that's just a 6-step guide on how to make a genogram. I also do a whole chapter in my book on genograms, and then I have some video resources as well for those of you who want to know how to make one and those of you who want to know how to facilitate one. That's a genogram.